Those female disciples present were all in third stage realm, and the highest cultivation among them was merely third stage realm 5th level. So who could match her? Huang Yueli totally didn't need to strike, just using a higher-up's coercion, and she could make them all suffer serious injuries. The few of them had finally realized that, as all of them were terrified that they had offended someone whom they could not afford to offend, as they had met with huge trouble. But it was all too late. Huang Yueli laughed coldly, as she unleashed all the profound energy in her body. The few female disciples were all sent flying on the spot, as each of them spat out blood in midair, crashing heavily onto the ground far, far away. Many bones in their bodies were fractured, and more than half of their meridians were shattered, as they could only flip around painfully on the ground, not even able to climb up. Their groans were heard repeatedly, and everyone who saw this had a change in their expressions as they moved backwards in terror. At this moment, they were all feeling lucky that they didn't follow these few dumb women in ridiculing Huang Yueli. Actually, quite a number of them had the same thought, but they hadn't expressed it out yet. But now, everyone had no choice but to admit that Huang Yueli was someone whom they could not afford to trifle with. Even without young sect master as her backing, just based on her age, having such powerful ability, her future was definitely going to be boundless. This person was no longer in the same world as them. They could only look up at her. No matter what entanglement she had with Li Moying, it wasn't something which people of their level could comment or discuss on. After Huang Yueli had got rid of those eyesores, she turned around and spoke to Yuan Ziyu, who had retreated to a far distance away. "Senior brother Yuan, are you all right? So sorry, I've implicated you. Earlier, I haven't finished talking with you." She had yet to finish her words when Yuan Ziyu waved his hands towards her, trying all his might to indicate to look behind. Huang Yueli was stunned for a moment, and following the direction which he was pointing at, she turned around to take a look. She only saw Li Moying's tall statue leaning against a big tree on the right hind position behind her. That suave face was hidden by the tree shade, which made her unable to see his expression clearly. But that powerful presence surrounding him was totally unconcealable. Instantly, everyone noticed his presence as they sucked in a mouthful of cold air. No one knew when Li Moying appeared at this place, what he had heard or seen. He straightened his body as he walked over slowly. Huang Yueli raised her head to watch his action and couldn't help but exclaim that this was an exceptional handsome man. No wonder so many young ladies were fighting over him. Those good-looking features and deep contours totally had not a sliver of flaw. His tall build was filled with the feeling of a man's vigor, along with his astonishing innate talent and exceptional potential. Even she was not able to resist his temptation, not to mention those ordinary female disciples. Li Moying walked to her as he lowered his head and looked at her deeply in her eyes. That moment made everyone's sights gathered onto the both of them. Everyone wanted to see. After Li Moying heard Huang Yueli's overhearing declaring, what response would he give? Even though Huang Yueli's strong innate talent was a reality, and it was also true that she had spent time together with Li Moying yesterday, but Li Moying's image towards the majority had always been a cold and harsh man, not allowing any woman to stop momentarily in his heart. How would Huang Yueli possibly be an exception? You can also listen on. As for those female disciples who were lying on the ground, also stopped their groaning, as a quick sensation of revenge surfaced in their hearts. Who asked Yi Xiao to be so complacent? Wasn't her karmic retribution about to happen now? Now that young sect master was here, how could she still display such a look which was flushed with success? If young sect master were to disregard yesterday's relationship and throw a huge temper towards her, then she would find out that she was merely a plaything in young sect master's heart. No matter how good her innate talent was, how could she possibly enter young sect master's eye? However, under the public glare, Li Moying's right hand hooked and wrapped around Huang Yueli's slender waist, as he familiarly took her into his embrace, while the other hand tucked in the messy strands of hair behind her ear, as he smiled at her. "What's the matter? I've only not been with you for a little while, and you've been bullied?" His tone had a tinge of ridicule, as the gaze he laid upon the young lady in his arms were filled with warmth and concern. Everyone nearby was all dumbstruck as their gazes fixed deadly onto Li Moying's face, with only one thought in their minds. Surely this wasn't true, right? What kind of hallucination were they having? Or had young sect master been struck by lightning and his brain wasn't functioning properly? Huang Yueli raised her chin as she spoke unhappily. How am I the one that's being bullied by others? Why can't it be that I'm the one bullying others? Am I that weak? Everyone's eyes almost dropped once again. What was this situation? This young lass brain was also malfunctioning? Young sect master was concerned if she had been bullied by others, but not only had she not took the opportunity to lament and whine, asking young sect master to vent her anger, she actually used such a high and mighty manner to speak to young sect master. Did she really treat herself as someone important? For a highly revered man like young sect master, which one of them did not want their woman to be docile and obedient to them? Based on her attitude, no matter how much young sect master pampered her, he would definitely be angry. However, Li Moying's reaction made everyone unable to believe in the truth. He pinched her face with absolute pampering as he smiled. All right, my Lier is the more incredible. Who will be able to bully you? Even I am bullied by you. Huang Yueli pouted. That's more like it. Li Moying gave a deep laugh and wanted to lower his head to kiss her, but thinking that there were too many spectators around, he was afraid that she would explode because of embarrassment, so he endured with the urge. He held Huang Yueli as he turned around. His gaze swept towards those few female disciples who had been sent flying by Huang Yueli. Instantly, his face turned extremely gloomy, as that pair of cold, sharp eyes made others not dare to look straight at him. From his current look, they totally could not tell that just a couple of breaths ago, he used that gentle expression towards Huang Yueli. The female disciples' souls had already flown out of their bodies. Earlier, when Li Moying appeared, they thought that they would be able to see Huang Yueli cutting a sorry state. No matter what, they would be able to vent their frustration. But in the end, all they saw was Li Moying embracing her with such deep sentiments. That kind of safeguard and that public display of love in front of everyone was something which anyone with eyes could see, that Li Moying was absolutely true-hearted towards Huang Yueli. At this moment, when they recalled the ridicule which they said to Huang Yueli earlier, that was like a resounding slap, fiercely striking on their faces. Li Moying had used his own attitude to prove how ridiculously wrong they had been. You can also listen on. Furthermore, to make this kind of mistake had a serious consequence. This meant that they had not only offended Huang Yueli, but also Li Moying. Just from the gloomy expression on his face, they knew that he was extremely infuriated. The female disciples all started to cower as they trembled, not daring to breath heavily as they knew they had done something extremely wrong. They gauged that they probably had to pay a heavy price for this. Li Moying opened his mouth coldly. Men dragged a few of them down and gift them to Elder Chu as, "Oh, wait." Huang Yueli pulled his sleeve as she broke off his sentence. Just saying a few bad things about me does not amount sending them to their deaths. Just throw them out of Celestial Light sect. That will do. Li Moying turned around to face her, as his thin lips were tightly pursed with an unfriendly glare, but he didn't open his mouth. The people crowded around had their hearts in their mouths, especially Yuan Ziyu, as he held a head full of sweat for Huang Yueli. This young lass, even though young sect master enjoyed a good relationship with her, but surely she could not become proud because of his pampering right. Young sect master had already given his command, and she actually dared to stop it, even making a new decision for him. Had she gotten it wrong? Who did she thought was beside her? Such a highly revered man like Li Moying could pamper her, but he would absolutely not allow her to challenge his authority. Just by looking at Li Moying's terrible expression, one knew that he was on the verge of acting up. Yuan Ziyu wanted to ask Huang Yueli to quickly submit to him, asking her to act coquettishly and cute to bring this over, not allowing Li Moying to spew out his rage. But he had no idea how to open his mouth right now. However, Huang Yueli's reaction was totally out of everyone's expectation. She grabbed hold of Li Moying's sleeve and swayed his arm with more strength. Did you hear me? Can you give me some reaction? Forget it, Emo, air. Help me drag them out and throw them at the mountain's foot. Yuan Ziyu almost fainted. She had totally not realized what she had done wrong, and even started to order the shadow guards around. How could she invite her own death by recklessness? But the few shadow guards thinking were totally different from the spectators. All they were thinking of were, since Third Miss had already opened her mouth, then what Li Moying said wasn't of importance anymore. Anyway, their own master was afraid of his wife, and when he spoke, it wasn't as useful as Third Miss. So, they immediately slipped forward, as each of them dragged one female disciple away. From start to end, they had not engaged in Li Moying's intent. Li Moying's expression turned even uglier, as the surrounding crowd were all trembling in fear. Huang Yueli totally didn't treat his anger as a matter, as she stretched out her hand and touched his face, attempting to lift up a smile on his lips. Ah, don't put on such a face. I'm getting unhappy from seeing it. Come on, give me a smile. Why put on such an expression? I've already said, I'm not being bullied by anyone. Those few female disciples' meridians have already been broken by me, and they've been thrown out of the sect. When they return to their families, they wouldn't have any good ending coming to them. So what are you still angry over for? Li Moying stared at her for a moment, and unwilling replied, They actually said that we are not compatible, and even slander you in such a way, saying it in such an ugly way. How could I not be angry? Furthermore, even dare to create a rumor that I'm just fooling around with you? And even said I wanted to marry Murong Fei? Li Moying wasn't just ordinarily unpleased. These mentally retarded female disciples had stepped on his landmine several times continuously. You can also listen on. Firstly, he hated to hear other people commenting that he and Huang Yueli were incompatible. In his herd, when he and Li Er stood together, they were naturally the couple who were the most pleasing to the eye. Following that, they slandered Huang Yueli, calling her as a shameless woman, and even said she seduced him. Honestly speaking, if Huang Yueli was willing to seduce him, it was exactly what he wished for. Moreover, he would be so excited that he couldn't sleep at night, as he laid flat preparing to be taken advantage of. Lastly, what made him angriest was the last point. How could these people spread rumors that he had a relationship with Murong Fei? He had not even taken a straight look at any other woman. Yet they said he was fooling around with Huang Yueli and would possibly abandon her any time. His Li Er had always been easily jealous, and if she heard these and believed in their nonsense, what would happen if she ran away in anger? They had just reconciled not too long ago. If Huang Yueli were to break off with him once again, he would absolutely not be able to take it. The minute he thought of all these, Li Moying's expression turned extremely ugly. Even though Huang Yueli was coaxing him by his side, he just couldn't smile at all. Huang Yueli knew that he had this thinking, and after staring a while at him, she suddenly burst out giggling. You're still laughing. Do you feel it's very funny? Li Moying was enraged, as he couldn't keep it in any further and lowered his head, taking a bite on the tip of her nose. Huang Yueli immediately covered her nose as she blinked her eyes innocently at him. It's very funny. Don't you believe that I am a woman of judgment? You treat me so well, and I'm not an idiot. How could I possibly believe in other people's nonsense? Furthermore, I cherish the times to be with you. She smiled slightly, as the lights in her eyes radiated brilliantly, causing Li Moying to go into a daze. After some time, he regained his senses, as the anger he suppressed had disappeared without a trace. All right, since you've already said that. Li Moying swept her a glance, as he whispered in her ear, When we go back, you must show me how much you cherish me. Huang Yueli gave a cold harumph. Fat hope. I'm not going to be manipulated by you. Li Moying laughed. Whether it's fat hope or not, you know later. Let's go. We should hurry back. I haven't taken lunch, so make lunch for me. You obviously have someone to make lunch for you. Why are you asking me to do it? Huang Yueli protested. On realizing that Li Moying was really going to take her away, she hurriedly cried out, Hold on. Wait a minute. Earlier those people distracted me, and I haven't had the chance to settle my matters yet. What matters? Li Moying asked curiously. Huang Yueli turned her head around and took a look and found Su Qingwei and Yu Xinyang in the crowd as she called for them urgently. Moing, this is senior sister Su Qingwei and senior brother Yu Xinyang. They're considered as my people, and I intend to change a factotum for them. In the end, I haven't got time to complete it when I was disgusted by those people. Now I'll bring them to the administrator, so just wait a little while for me. Li Moing heard her introduction as his deep black eyes narrowed slightly, sweeping his grace and stern gaze at them. Su Qingwei and Yu Xinyang shivered, unable to take on Li Moing's powerful might, as they lowered their heads and sweat covered their backs. They had not thought that Huang Yueli actually called out for them in front of Li Moing. Usually, it was one matter that they knew that their female master was young sect master's fiancé. But for them to stand in front of a top expert like young sect master was another matter altogether. You can also listen on. Only from standing in front of Li Moing would one be able to experience that kind of terrifying, powerful presence deep down from their bones. They really admired Huang Yueli. Not only was she able to appear so joyful and at ease in front of Li Moing, she even dared to argue with him. If it was any other lady, that person would probably not even dare to say no to him. Li Moing observed them for a while, before nodding to Huang Yueli. Your two subordinates are moldable characters. Only their innate talents are slightly off. You need not arrange other factotums for them. MOE has already been released, so let them follow MOE around to do things will do. I'm also more assured if you have a few more people around you. Huang Yueli showed a sweet smile to him. All right, you're so considerate and meticulous. I'll listen to your arrangement then. This kind of performance was something which Li Moing enjoyed very much. He nodded his head in satisfaction and asked, "Can we leave now?" Wait a minute. I still have more things. There's more? What other matters? Li Moing frowned. Huang Yueli hurriedly called out to Yuan Ziyu, senior brother Yuan. I've heard from senior sister Su that you've been allocated to an extremely dangerous factotum. Just these few days alone, you've already suffering from serious internal injury. Your suffering is indirectly caused by me, and I feel bad over it. Why not you think about what other factotum you want? I'll help you change it. When Li Moing heard the sentence, senior brother Yuan, his forehead undetectably creased but almost immediately relaxed, so Huang Yueli totally didn't notice that. He had not forgotten the fact that when they were still in Celestial Light Sect, Yuan Ziyu had designs on his woman previously. Moreover now, Huang Yueli's impression towards him was rather good. What method did he use to bewitch his Lier? Even though Yuan Ziyu was no competition in his eyes and didn't pose as a threat, but seeing Lier smile at other man made him extremely uncomfortable. Yuan Ziyu detected the unfriendliness in Li Moing's eyes, and although he was feeling apprehensive, he didn't back down because of that. He remained silent for a moment, when he suddenly knelt down on one knee in front of Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli had not expected such a thing to happen, as she had a great shock. Senior brother Yuan, Yuan Ziyu lowered his head. Miss Bai, I'm willing to follow you from now on, to be of service to you. Please do not reject me. Huang Yueli looked at him in shock as she blinked. Do you know what you're saying? Are you certain you've considered carefully? For Yuan Ziyu to act in this way, to be honest, Huang Yueli had really not expected that, because Yuan Ziyu and Su Qingwei and the others weren't the same. Su Qingwei and Yu Xinyang came from a bordering small nation, and their innate talent were just so-so. If they didn't agree to work under her, they probably wouldn't be able to mix around in Celestial Light Academy. So Huang Yueli knew they had no other choice. But Yuan Ziyu was totally different. His innate talent isn't bad, and his family background was considered rather okay. Even without anyone's support, he would at least become Celestial Light Sect's inner disciple. In future, after he had some accomplishments, when he returned to the Yuan family, that would also become Sky Cloud City's #1 powerhouse. Anyway, he would definitely be able to lead a good life. But he actually chose to follow her? Yuan Ziyu replied softly, I've already considered very clearly. Will Miss Bai please take me in? Huang Yueli frowned slightly, and before she could say anything, Li Moing, who was standing beside her, had already taken the lead to speak out. You can also listen on. Why? Did you think that my requirements for taking in people are too high, so you've settled for the next best thing, to come under Lear? Of course, your judgment isn't wrong. Lear's subordinates are also mine, so I will naturally take care of you. But I must warn you that what I hate the most are people who live on us, but yet help others secretly. You've better consider carefully. If you really have decided, then you will need to form a blood pact with Lear, swearing your allegiance to her, protecting her regardless of whatever cost it may take. Otherwise, even if Lear is soft-hearted, I will also help her to clean up her faction. Li Moying's voice was chilly, and every word was filled with threat, as every single sentence was able to poke straight through one's heart. Not only that, when he spoke, the imposing manner from him unreservedly unleashed and lashed itself towards Yuan Ziyu. Yuan Ziyu was instantly suppressed till his face turned pale and an intense pain was felt from his heart. If it wasn't for his overpowering determination which made him hung on, he probably had gone limp onto the ground, totally unable to climb up. But Yuan Ziyu was very clear that what Li Moying wanted wasn't a waste who was suppressed and completely lost all spirit. What he wanted was someone with real ability who could utilize their full abilities to protect Huang Yueli. So, he hung on tightly, not falling no matter what. Even though his spine was suppressed by that huge coercion, as though it would break into pieces the next moment, he didn't fall and not stood up. After some time later, Li Moying gave a cold snort as he withdrew his surrounding imposing presence and turned around to look at Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli knew what he was thinking about as she gave him a reassuring smile before turning to Yuan Ziyu saying, "Senior brother Yuan, you have to consider carefully. If you really want to follow me, then just like what Moying said earlier, I don't accept any traitors." Yuan Ziyu replied, "Miss Bai, don't worry. Since I've already made this decision, I absolutely will not regret it. I can form the blood pact with you right now." Huang Yueli saw his determined attitude, plus the fact that she herself appreciated Yuan Ziyu as well, so she agreed to it. It wasn't like she had not thought about his motive, but this actually wasn't that difficult to guess, because the man behind her is Li Moying. Li Moying's future would at least be Celestial Light Sect's sect master. Or maybe he might go even further than this. Based on his innate talent and ability, it was only a matter of time before he became the entire Soaring Heavens continent's top-rated expert. With his reputation became famous. Yuan Ziyu following him would also be brought along, so he would have the opportunity to enjoy career success as well. But Li Moying already had so many shadow guards by his side. Moreover, each and every one of their innate talents weren't any worse off than Yuan Ziyu's. Even if he could join Li Moying's faction, he would also be at the bottom, not to mention attracting Li Moying's attention. But following Huang Yueli wasn't the same at all. Under Huang Yueli, there were only Su Qingwei and Yu Xinyang now. So, in terms of innate talent or knowledge, they were far beyond him, so he naturally would be most valued. Moreover, from Li Moying's attitude towards Huang Yueli, it was clear that in future, no matter how high Li Moying climbed, Huang Yueli would also be his beloved treasure. So, Li Moying would not maltreat the people beside her. Huang Yueli thought that she had guessed Yuan Ziyu's mind, feeling that this was a mutual benefit agreement. But she had not thought that she had only guessed it half correctly. The other half of the reason, Yuan Ziyu would never say it out, because certain things would never have any good ending. So, he rather kept it in his heart forever. To be able to protect the person whom he cared for silently was a matter which made one satisfied. You can also listen on. Li Moying, however, had an inkling, but he wasn't so silly as to remind his own woman. Anyway, he had absolute self-confidence in himself. No matter what thinking Yuan Ziyu had in mind, he could forget about competing with him. The two of them weren't on the same level, and Yuan Ziyu could only keep his feelings hidden deep within the recesses of his heart forever. Huang Yueli and Yuan Ziyu quickly formed the blood pact. Li Moying stood by the side watching them complete the pact before he opened his mouth, "Since you're already Lear's subordinate, then later on, go along with Su Qingwei and the others to look for Moe." Yuan Ziyu hesitated for a moment and gave a neither servile nor overbearing bow. Young sect master, thank you for your good intentions, but I still want to continue my current factotum. Oh, Li Moying was slightly surprised as his brows rose. Yuan Ziyu replied, although a company enter disciples to train is a dangerous thing. But because of this, I have gained many actual combat experience, and my cultivation speed have been raising quickly, so I'd like to continue grinding myself for a while. Of course, if Miss Bai needs me, I will abide by her arrangements totally. Huang Yueli smiled. I'm very glad that you think in this way. In the way of cultivation, the most important thing is to receive difficulties. The more you feel that you cannot overcome it, the more you must try to do so. Only in this way will you be able to feel the handle to even higher realms. Since this is the case, then you shall continue remaining in the outer door. If you need anything, you can come and look for me. Yuan Ziyu heard what she said and went into deep thoughts. If these words came from Li Moying, other than learning something, he would not felt surprised. But since it came from Huang Yueli, he felt that this was something which an elderly top expert had come to comprehend. How old was Huang Yueli now only? Furthermore, with her cultivation time so short, she had actually comprehended such understanding. After Huang Yueli settled Yuan Ziyu's matter, she had, under the crowd's exasperation and jealous gazes, held on to Li Moying's arm as they walked off slowly. Their intimate manner made every single witness extremely shocked. The rumor regarding them started to spread like wildfire within the entire Celestial Light sect. From then on, Li Moying and Huang Yueli had officially stayed together. As the young sect master of Celestial Light sect, Li Moying had many other things to deal with. Other than the sect's affairs, he had various properties to handle. Because of that, every morning, Li Moying would head out alone to handle these administrative work and come back by noon to accompany Huang Yueli for lunch. Huang Yueli had spent most of her time in closed-door cultivation. As her advancement speed was too fast, her cultivation had been rather unstable, so stabilizing her foundation was the #1 matter on her mind right now. This day morning, after Li Moying went out, Huang Yueli was feeling bored by herself in the courtyard as she thought about going for a stroll. Whoever knew that she had not left the courtyard for several steps when she ran into Murong Fei, who was filled with envy and hatred, at a small path in the rear mountain. That pretty face of Murong Fei's was already filled with a malicious look as she stared fiercely at Huang Yueli, gritting her teeth as she said, "You, Byraoli, it's really you. You actually dare to come to Celestial Light Sect." Huang Yue had long expected that in Celestial Light Sect, she was bound to meet with Murong Fei, so she wasn't too surprised. She shrugged her shoulders as she gave a smile, which didn't look like a smile. "Isn't this eldest Miss Murong? It's been a long time since we last met. The dark eye circles underneath your eyes are so deep. Haven't you been resting well these few days? You can also listen on." Huang Yueli looked as though she was filled with concern for her, but in her words, it was self-evident that what she said was laced with ridicule in it. Murong Fei wasn't an idiot as well, so naturally she understood the underlying meaning in it. These days, news regarding Li Moying liking an outer-door female disciple and them appearing intimately at various locations had long spread throughout every corner of Celestial Light Sect. Murong Fei naturally heard about all these rumors, but she didn't quite believe them in her heart. Because Li Moying acting so crazy over that female student in Celestial Light Academy was something which she had witnessed personally. There was no reason that that wretched young lass had just gone missing for 2 months, and Li Moying would have a change of heart so quickly. But this wasn't something impossible as well, because Li Moying sent a lot of people to search for her, whereas Murong Fei herself also sent out all her men to do the same. Since so many people couldn't find her, surely she couldn't have popped out by herself, right? So right from the start, Murong Fei had turned up her nose towards this sort of rumor. But once time went by, not only had these kinds of rumor not stopped, the examples of how intimate the both of them increased as though it really happened, made one unable to not believe it. The gazes which other people casted onto Murong Fei was as though they were looking at an abandoned wife. Murong Fei was extremely angry, feeling that this kind of gaze casted onto her was a kind of humiliation. She, Murong Fei, was the daughter of a sect master, so how could so many people use this kind of sympathetic gaze to look at her? She simply couldn't endure this. It was then when Murong Fei totally believed that there was somebody beside Li Moying. She was so angry that she almost fainted, as she simply couldn't believe that just as she was blocking out by Ruoli from coming back, there was someone who actually seduced Li Moying while she wasn't paying attention. This simply was impossible to defend well. She must ferret out the shameless vixen. However, Li Moying had protected his little fiancée very well. After Mo, he had been released from the water prison, his loyalty towards Huang Yueli became even intense, and his protection plan was so well done that not even one drop of water could leak out. Murong Fei had followed Li Moying around for several days, but she had not been able to get close to his courtyard, not to mention seeing who the woman inside was. It was until today, when Huang Yueli had left the courtyard before she bumped into Murong Fei. Huang Yueli's words of ridicule wasn't just based on casual talk, but it had some basis to it. In this duration where Murong Fei was pursuing that little vixen, she had foregone her food and sleep, so worried that her hair almost turned white. She looked extremely haggard, and her dark eye rings were so dark that it scared people. Murong Fei was trodden on her foot as she couldn't help but screamed out, "By Ruoli, weren't you being pursued and had already died? How could you come back to life again?" Huang Yueli laughed as she pointed out with a meaning. "Wow, eldest Miss Murong's news is so well informed that you even know that I was pursued and assassinated. But unfortunately, my life is very hard, and generally when people want me to do something, I will not follow their wishes. However, those who assassinated me would always end up dead without any burial grounds." When Murong Fei heard that, she got a huge shock. "What? You say Ling Wenbin is already dead? Impossible. He's a 7th-stage realm practitioner, whereas you're only in 3rd-stage realm. How could you possibly kill him?" Thinking of here, she gave a cold laugh. "Stop trying to fool me. You can kill a 7th-stage realm practitioner? Why don't you go try to lie to a ghost?" Huang Yueli shrugged her shoulder. "Forget it if you don't believe me. You can also listen on." Murong Fei assumed that Huang Yueli's thoughts were seen through by her, so she was feeling guilty, so she couldn't help but gave a cold laugh. "Although I don't know how you were able to escape, but I certainly admire your guts. How do you even dare to appear in Celestial Light Sect? Don't you know that I'm the eldest young miss of Celestial Light Sect, and my father is Celestial Light Sect's sect master, so this is my turf. You still dare to come and deliver yourself to doom?" Huang Yueli unconcernedly shot her a glance as she laughed softly. "Miss Murong, your words aren't exactly the reflection of the whole truth. Although your father is sect master, but my future husband is the young sect master. What do I have to be afraid of?" Murong Fei was so angry that she almost fainted. Yes, this wretched lass had Li Moying as her backing, which was why she wasn't afraid of anything. But what did eldest senior brother see in this lass, using all his heart to protect her? Furthermore, eldest senior brother totally ignored her face and appeared in pairs with this wretched lass publicly. From the rumors, he doted extremely on this wretched lass. On what basis? Was this really? Huang Yueli's mood was lifted greatly when she saw Murong Fei's angry look. She had long wanted to punch up Murong Fei badly, but considering that Li Moying was still Celestial Light Sect's disciple, she didn't want her future husband to be put into a difficult position, so she endured it, thinking that if she grabbed a chance in future, she'd throw a gunny sack over Murong Fei and drag her to the outside of the sect before dealing with her. In the end, Murong Fei herself didn't grow any eyes and actually sent herself here. So wasn't this considered as inviting death by her own recklessness? Murong Fei was so angry that she was sprouting smoke through her 7 orifices as she retorted angrily, "By Ruoli, don't be too complacent. Do you really think that eldest senior brother will marry you? To tell you the truth, in these few years, there are at least a few hundred of women who try to seduce eldest senior brother, just like you, but eldest senior brother didn't marry any one of them. Just wait to be abandoned by him." Huang Yue exaggeratedly dug her ears as she smiled. Can't you come out with some fresh new sentences? What you said were something which I've heard everyone talking about at least several hundred times. But unfortunately, although my Moing has a few hundred women wooing him, but I'm the only one who he wooed after. I'm grateful to you for letting me know that my fiancé is so faithful. Sigh, he really is the #1 good man under the heavens. Looks like he definitely won't have a change of heart. Murong Fei saw her bewitching smile and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Not knowing why, she somehow felt that this young lass in front of her, as compared to the last time they met, she had become even more beautiful. The current her skin was supple and her face was like a painting, no matter from which angle one looked at. She was a complete, ravishing beauty. On the contrary, dark eye rings hung below Murong Fei's eyes as she spent consecutively 2 days of staying up. Her complexion was a pale white and her hair was dried and yellow, losing all her glamour in the past. This comparison made Murong Fei hated her to the extreme. In the past, she was confident over her beauty and background, and frankly speaking, she totally disregarding Huang Yue. But now, Huang Yue had changed into a valuable armament master, and she was also growing prettier by the day. It would be a huge wonder if Li Moing didn't like her more and more as the days went past. The fire of jealousy engulfed Murong Fei's rationality. Her eyes turned red as she stared intently at Huang Yue's face and asked in a cloudy and sorrowful manner, "Why? You feel very complacent? Isn't it all because of that attractive face which made eldest senior brother look at you in new light? If I were to scratch your face and ruin it, make a guess if eldest senior brother will still take another look at you? By then, will there be anyone who will come and protect you?" You can also listen on. Huang Yue saw her sinister expression and immediately realized that this evil eldest young miss really wanted to disfigure her. But what she was worried about was that her initiative to strike at Murong Fei would bring Li Moing trouble. So if Murong Fei wanted to make a move first, it was exactly what she wished for. Huang Yue opened her eyes wide as she hurriedly acted out an exceptional terrified look, shaking and shuddering as she said, "You, what are you trying to do?" She knew that the more she frightened she appeared, the more she could attract Murong Fei's twisted desire to torture her. As expected, Murong Fei's smile turned even more sinister. "By Ruoli, I'll let you know the price you have to pay for offending this young lady." Saying that, Murong Fei shot up like an arrow. The speed of her moves was extremely swift, and in an instant, she had already gathered her profound energy, striking it out towards Huang Yue's chest. A smirk of ridicule appeared on Huang Yue's face as she staggered a few steps backwards, avoiding her attack, and just as she was about to counterattack, suddenly, a super powerful, profound energy sprang out from behind her, surging up violently, unable to be stopped as it struck Murong Fei directly. Murong Fei's eyes widened, and she didn't even have the time to cry out when she was sent flying. Her entire body crashed heavily onto the ground, that it caused a hole on it. The minute she opened her mouth, she spat out a mouthful of blood and immediately fainted. The expression on her face was still in a state of disbelief. In actual fact, Huang Yue was even more astonished than her. She turned around and saw a gloomy Li Moing standing right behind her, who barely suppressed the rage in his heart. "Moing, haven't you gone out? Didn't you tell me this morning that you'd only be back in the afternoon? Why are you back so fast? Is it because you miss me already?" She innocently said, as a pair of watery, large eyes blinked at him as she attempted to bewitch the man in front of her. Li Moing's expression remained ugly as he used a harsh, cold stare on her, staring so hard that she felt so guilty that she lowered her head. Li Moing then took her into his embrace, but he was still angry as he couldn't help but growled in her ear. "You little lass who makes one worry. Are you intentionally torturing me? I've told you a few hundred times that you must bring Moe along when you go out. In the end, you slipped away alone and even set up an array to puzzle Moe, making him so scared that he came over to look for me. Huang Yueli's eyes opened wide. Surely not right. The array I've set up is only third tier, and Brother Mo, he could even see through this. His aptitude in arrays isn't that low. If I'd known earlier, I should have. She originally spoke swiftly, but under Li Moying's icy cold stare, she could only swallow the other half of her words back. Li Moying asked coldly, "If you'd known earlier, then what would you do? Tell me?" Huang Yueli pouted and was berating him with the word tyrant in her heart, but she still stretched out her arms and circled it around Li Moying's neck as she pushed herself entirely onto him. Her delicate little face leaned in close to his lower jaw, and giving an extremely sweet smile, she laughed. "What do you want me to say? You're so fierce." Li Moying wanted to put on a stern look to lecture this young lass properly. In actual fact, he realized that he had no status in his own place. Not only did Huang Yueli not listen much to him, even his own subordinates, the Shadow Guards, seemed to have realized who was the one making decisions in the household, as they didn't really listen to his instructions. You can also listen on. Li Moying felt that it was extremely necessary for him to regain his status as head of household. Otherwise, after he really got married with Huang Yueli, it was imaginable what kind of end he would fall into. Furthermore, Huang Yueli had really great guts. Sometimes the things she did even made Li Moying broke out in sweat. Like this time, while he wasn't paying attention, this lass actually ran out on her own. With just her 4th stage realm cultivation, she went up again the 6th stage realm Murong Fei. Actually, Li Moying knew that Huang Yueli's character, which was fond of taking risks, wasn't a flaw. To a practitioner, it was a major advantage to be bold and careful. For those who lacked the courage to face danger or even proactively seek danger, no matter how high their innate talent was, it was not possible for them to become a real top-rated expert. Only through experience, life, and death would one be able to continue breaking through and continuing advancing. But although he knew these very well, whenever he saw Huang Yueli risking her life, he would still be upset by it. The reason for this was probably because he had seen her sacrifice herself in their past life, which left a psychological shadow permanently. Although Li Moying's attitude was fierce, but not only did Huang Yueli not fear him, she even smiled sweetly as she rubbed her face against his neck. "All right, what are you angry over? I just felt that MOE following me was rather inconvenient. Rest assured, I have my own plans. This Celestial Light sect is your turf, so what major thing could possibly happen? Moreover, the experiences I've been through are not any lesser than yours. It's not as though I'm some ignorant young girl who had not seen the world. The past me had traveled throughout the entire Soaring Heavens continent. So what could happen in the small Celestial Light sect?" But Li Moying didn't think in that way. He stared at Huang Yueli as he spoke. "You still dare to mention this? Earlier, who was it who fought with Murong Fei? She's at 6th stage realm, 1st level. Furthermore, don't you belittle her. Although her innate talent isn't comparable to yours, but she is after all much older than you, and she's also the daughter of Celestial Light Sect's sect master. The profound skills which she inherited from her family are rather powerful. Even an ordinary 6th stage realm practitioner isn't comparable to her." Huang Yueli stared at him in dissatisfaction. "Are you thinking too lightly of me? I'm not any ordinary 4th stage realm peak practitioner. I am certain that I can defeat her, which was why I chose to strike." Li Moying frowned. "If you're now at 5th stage realm, then I definitely won't stop you. But you're only at 4th stage realm." Huang Yueli couldn't endure it further as her sweet smile on her face disappeared, and with a humph, she rolled her eyes at Li Moying. "All right, so you really look down on me. I've told you this before that I've not only raised my cultivation in the Inheritance Tower, I've also learnt quite a number of God-grade profound skills. No way, let's go back now. I'll spar with you to show you how powerful I am." Li Moying looked at her arrogant and pampered look as he felt totally helpless. He just told her off out of concern, and her face changed totally. This temper was really bad. Furthermore, it was because of his excessive pampering. Li Moying's eyebrows rose as he replied, "All right, it's possible if you want to spar with me, but I don't casually make a move. Let's have a bet if you want to spar with me." Huang Yueli went into a blank. "Bet? What bet?" She hadn't heard before that, to spar with her own fiancé, they first had to place a bet. Lemoyne leaned in close to her ear as he puffed out a mouthful of warm breath on her earlobes, as he satisfactorily watched that sensitive ears speedily turned into a shade of pink. You can also listen on. The person who loses will have to help the winner warm up the bed. Do you accept this bet? Lemoyne gave a low laugh. Hearing this kind of words, Huang Yueli's ears turned even redder as she gave a sulky glare at Lemoyne. What do you mean? Does your brain only contain these useless thoughts? Furthermore, don't you feel embarrassed to bet with me? You're a 7th-stage realm practitioner, and your ability is so strong. You definitely win no matter how I go up against you. Lemoyne laughed. Isn't that really simple? I can suppress my own cultivation to maintain a 4th-stage realm, or so, or I can stop using my profound energy, only using profound skills to fight with you. As long as you can defeat me once, it's be considered as your win. How about it? Huang Yueli blinked, not believing that Lemoyne would be so kind-hearted, because the difference between practitioners' abilities was reflected on one's cultivation and one's profound skills. If they were to compare cultivation levels, she was far away from Lemoyne. But if it's about cultivation methods, profound skills and experiences, she might not necessarily lose to Lemoyne. After all, she was a real 9th-stage realm top expert in her past life. And in this life, she had even learnt God-grade profound skills in the Inheritance Tower, whereas Lemoyne was only at the 7th-stage realm. So probably the cultivation methods which he learnt were not even comparable to her 9 Phoenix transformations. As long as he didn't use profound energy to crush her, her chances of winning would be rather high. Huang Yueli seriously considered about this, and from her peripheral view, she saw Lemoyne behaving like a cat which had successfully stolen fish, smiling in a strange way. She had a change of thoughts and suddenly realized what he was planning. She was so angry that she wanted to pull Lemoyne's ear. How dare you trick me? Even if I win, then you'd still have to warm up the bed for me. And in the end, the person who gains the most advantage is still you. You dare to even scheme your own fiancé. You're a scoundrel. Lemoyne laughed as he retreated backwards, receiving her punches and kicks as he continued to deny. How would I gain any advantage? Aren't you the one who gains all the advantage? I've long seen through it that you've been coveting after my body for a long time. Yesterday, when I was taking a shower, weren't you intentionally peeping at me? That's an accident. Accident. I was not peeping. While the two of them were fighting and arguing, they didn't notice that behind them, Murong Fei had already regained consciousness. Her eyes widened as she stared deadly at those two people. From their intimate actions, it made her felt as though her blood was boiling at her chest area and repeatedly spat out several mouthfuls of blood. Eldest, senior, brother. She coughed as she stretched out her trembling arm towards Lemoyne. Hearing Murong Fei's cry, the duo's expression changed as they turned around. Eldest senior brother, you. How could you do this to me? Murong Fei's expression was filled with grievance, as her eyes were brimming with tears as her voice choked. If someone who didn't understand the actual situation were to see this, they would probably think that a passionate lady like her was abandoned by Lemoyne, that scum. Huang Yueli was extremely disgusted by this, as she gave a cold harumph and turned her head aside. Her meaning was very clear. She's asking Lemoyne to settle this by himself. Lemoyne saw his little fox getting angry as his displeasure with Murong Fei shot up. His pair of cold, stern peach blossom eyes shot towards Murong Fei, and it was laced with a cold, murderous intent, scaring Murong Fei so much that she almost jumped up in shock. Eldest senior brother. Lemoyne's voice seemed as though it was emitted from Hades. Murong Fei, this is the last time I'm warning you. Do remember this clearly. You can also listen on. Keep further away from Lier and from me as well. Don't ever appear casually in front of us. If I ever see any actions from you trying to provoke Lier, even if it's just a slight crease of her forehead, then don't blame me for leaving Master the last of any face which I can give. You should know clearly that since I can injure you seriously today, the next time I can kill you. Li Moying's voice was too cold, making one tremble in fright. Murong Fei said in disbelief, "Eldest senior brother, for this slut, my father's gratitude towards you." Before she could finish her sentence, Murong Fei suddenly cried out miserably with an AH, and two pieces of teeth dropped out from her mouth. Li Moying suddenly struck out at her, flicking a pebble by the roadside, directly onto Murong Fei's face. "I said this. I don't allow you to provoke my Lier. Who did you say was a slut?" Li Moying stared icily at her. Murong Fei really wanted to call Huang Yueli 10,000 times little slut, a vixen who snatched her man from her. But under Li Moying's icy cold stare, she was so frightened that her soul flew away, so she could only mumble as she shut her mouth, not daring to say a single word. Li Moying gave a cold harumph before he spoke out indifferently. "I hope you remember this clearly, that Lier is my fiancée, and the only woman who I loved deeply. I only like her and not like you. Just seeing you alone makes me feel disgusted. Stop having any designs on me. Even if something really happened to Lier at that time, I will never accept you, because I will only go down to Hades to accompany her. No matter if it's life or death, I will not separate from her. That's all I have to say." Hearing such a solemn declaration, Murong Fei's entirely laid limp on the ground, unable to give any response. She had not imagined that Li Moying's feelings toward Huang Yueli was actually so deep, to follow her in death. What virtue did this wretched lass had to be able to receive Li Moying's deep and profound love? After Li Moying finished his words, he didn't bother any further about Murong Fei. He hugged Huang Yueli and brought her back to their residence. Huang Yueli originally wanted to continue touring, but on hearing Li Moying's words, she suddenly lost all her mood. Being confessed by a man who she deeply loved, any woman would feel their feelings being undulating, especially after hearing Li Moying said, "We'll follow her to Hades to accompany her," which made Huang Yueli deeply shocked. She uncontrollably thought about her past life. After she self-exploded, what had Mu Chungying experienced? Was it the same as today, to accompany her in Hades? But even if this was the case, they were only a pair of lonely souls. So how could they both be reborn and appear as the current identity, reuniting once again? In a serene night, Celestial Light sect Master Murong's room. Murong Fei was dripping mucus as her tears kept flowing while she complained to him. Father, how could eldest senior brother treat me in this way? He actually got seduced by that vixen and is serious about marrying her. How could he do this?" Murong frowned as he felt frustrated. He had pampered this eldest daughter the most and felt heartache when his daughter had been bullied. If it was someone else who dared to disrespect Murong Fei, he definitely would seek justice for her. Frankly speaking, Murong Fei and Murong Ni's arrogance and selfishness were all caused by his pampering. But unfortunately, the person who bullied Murong Fei was Li Moying himself, although Li Moying was his disciple. But Murong had no way to deal with him. You can also listen on. That was simply because Li Moying's innate talent was simply too shocking. Murong had even suspected that Li Moying's innate talent had surpassed the highest 9th grade upper level, and as for innate talents above this grading, no matter what it was, Murong had no inkling of what it was like. He only knew that from young, Li Moying's cultivation speed was shockingly fast, ridiculously fast. Moreover, when ordinary practitioners cultivate, if their speed was overly excessive, that would result in unstableness in their cultivation and led to them unable to balance the training on profound skills, thereby resulting in their overall battle power being much lower than same-level practitioners. However, Li Moying had never been troubled by this. Since young, he had been able to challenge practitioners whose cultivation were much stronger than his. Furthermore, his potential seemed as though it could not be exhausted. Instead, it grew along with his age, becoming scarier and scarier. Not only so, Li Moying's wisdom was also matured at an early age. Right when he was 10 years old, he had knowingly established his own force. By the time Murong had realized it, Moying had already completed separated from his control, and now that Moying had already entered adulthood, his ability was even more unimaginable. Although his cultivation was only 7th stage realm 3rd level, but Murong had a faint premonition that even if a 9th stage realm practitioner like him were to challenge Moying, he probably would not be able to gain any advantages. In his own self-interest, he naturally wished that Moying could become his son-in-law. It would be best if he was infatuated by Murong Fei and fell head over heels for her. In this way, this outstanding talented young man would stay in Celestial Light Sect forever, helping to invigorate Celestial Light Sect and help him, his master, gain some glory. Alas, things did not go as planned. Even though Murong had tried to push Murong Fei to his side when he was still very young, creating numerous chances to nurture their relationship, but Moying had remained cold and distant towards Murong Fei. Murong had thought that Moying was a natural-born practitioner, only having cultivation in his head, without any thoughts for BGR, boy-girl relationship. It was until Huang Yuli's appearance did he realize that it wasn't because Moying was destined to be alone, but because this daughter of his had no charm at all. Because of that, Murong was already dissatisfied with Murong Fei. Whoever knew that instead of self-reflecting on herself, Murong Fei even ran over to complain, which made him had a terrible headache. Sai, what do you want father to do? Your eldest senior brother doesn't like you. Doesn't like means doesn't like. Surely I can't force him to like you, right? It's not as if you don't know. The character of your eldest senior brother doesn't allow anyone to tell him what to do. If I push him too hard, he may immediately leave the sect. Murong frowned as he attempted to reason with Murong Fei. Murong Fei's eyes were red from crying. Father, I don't care. He beat me. Am I to just forget about this? Murong sighed. If you don't go and provoke him, would he beat you up for no reason? Your eldest senior brother shouldn't have the habit of finding things to do for no rhyme or reason, right? Just don't go provoke him anymore. Looks like he really will not marry you, so you could just give up. Father will introduce you another fine young man. Murong Fei had not expected that even Murong would not stand by her side, so she got even more infuriated that her eyes turned red. Father, why aren't you helping me? Isn't your greatest wish for me to marry eldest senior brother? Now you're actually persuading me to marry someone else? Murong replied helplessly. There's no way now, right? Your eldest senior brother had already gotten engaged, so that shows that he will not marry anyone else except for her. What else can you do? You can also listen on. When Murong Fei heard that, a sinister glint flashed past her eyes as she violently raised her head and looked at Murong. Father, why would there be no way? Of course there's a way. As long as that little slut dies. Only if she dies, then eldest senior brother will notice that there are other women on this earth who could give everything for him. What? Murong was so shocked that he almost dropped the cup in his hands onto the ground. He looked at his own daughter in disbelief and thought that he had heard her wrongly. Fei, what are you saying? Don't tell father that you're going to kill your eldest senior brother's fiancé? What fiancé? That's just a vixen who climbs up other man's bed on her own accord. She's not even worthy of eldest senior brother, yet she bewitches him, so she deserves to die. Murong Fei said each word in hatred as she got close to Murong. Father, your Celestial Light sect master and the entire sect belongs to you. You'd surely have a way to kill that vixen, right? Murong Fei's brows were knitted tightly as he looked at Murong Fei in shock. After some time, he finally spoke out. You must have been demonized. Do you know or not who your eldest senior brother is? If you kill his beloved woman, will he still be with you? This absolutely will not be possible. Listen to father. Give up on him otherwise if something really happens and you anger him. Our entire sect isn't even enough for him to torment. Father, what's the matter with you? How could you stand on that vixen's side? Previously that vixen had gone missing for 2 months. I was almost going to succeed. If it wasn't for the fact that she suddenly revived and appeared, probably I might have already been engaged to eldest senior brother. Murong Fei cried out. Muronga saw that she was still being pig-headed and got a little furious as his tone shot up as well. I'm not standing on her side, but I cannot afford to offend your eldest senior brother. West Sky Region's Green Cloud sect is about to come to our sect to discuss a huge matter. By then, I will still require your eldest senior brother's help. If you really provoke him, what will happen to the other people in the sect? Moreover, Father wishes for you to marry him, to pull him over and not to make him hate you. Your unscrupulous methods will only push him further and further away. Murong Fei also had a feeling that Li Moying was still staying in Celestial Light Sect right now, helping out all because he was grateful to him for saving his life when he was young. If he really offended him, and he were to leave like that, no one would be able to stop him. Murong Fei could tell that he really wasn't willing to help, as her expression turned green. All right, since even Father doesn't stand on my side, then if anything were to really happen, then don't blame me for not being filial to you. Murong Fei jumped up, and the look she had towards her father was filled with hatred. Murong Fei's heart jumped, as he felt that this eldest daughter of his wasn't very right, feeling that there was an ominous premonition. But this, after all, was his daughter who he had pampered since young, so he didn't believe that she could do such a vicious thing. All right, Fei-er, Father knows you're just thinking awry for the time being, and you'd be back to your normal self after resting for a few days. You can stop cultivating these 2 days, go out and relax your mind. Furthermore, Father wants to tell you another news. Green Cloud Sect's sect master had intentions to link up with us through marriage. His eldest son is just 20 this year, and his innate talent had already reached 9th grade lower level. Very compatible with you. You can also listen on. Murong's original intention was to comfort her. After all, there were plenty more fish in the sea, so, without Li Moying, there were still many others who wanted to marry her. But in Murong Fei's ears, she felt that her father had betrayed her and was even more infuriated than ever. She could not sit a moment more as she got up immediately. All right, since you're unwilling to help me, then treat as though I've never been here. Saying that, she didn't even consider the fact that her injuries had not recuperated yet as she forced herself out of the door while staggering. Moronda gave a long sigh. Not know what he should do at all. I'd better let her calm down before persuading her again. She had better not do any silly things. At this present moment, Moronda was already beginning to regret his actions of trying to play matchmaker for Li Moying and Murong Fei then. Now Murong Fei had totally sunken deep, and perhaps she might create even more trouble. After that day, Murong Fei didn't do anything and did not appear before Huang Yuli or Li Moying. Huang Yuli had this feeling that the unruly eldest young miss would not stop her actions so easily, so she must be planning something up her sleeve. But she wasn't afraid at all, so she disregarded this feeling. Anyway, if Murong Fei were to come and provoke her, she'd definitely make her pay the price for it. This afternoon, Li Moying wasn't around, and Huang Yuli was feeling bored by herself, so she decided to tour the small town beneath the mountain. She could also purchase some armament refining materials at the same time. Now, in order to make Li Moying rest assured, Huang Yuli agreed to let the shadow guards follow her around every single time she went out. But, in order to have enough freedom to exercise, she requested for the shadow guards to follow her from a distance away, unless it was life-threatening, otherwise they were not to show themselves. Li Moying decided to give a step back each, so he readily agreed to her request. This was Huang Yuli's first time to the small town. She didn't let Li Moying accompany her, because she was intending to purchase some materials to secretly refine a profound armament for his birthday present, so she could not allow him to know about this beforehand. When they reached the small town, Huang Yuli realized that although this town wasn't big, but it was bustling with life. Especially the transaction marketplace, it was filled with various small stalls with a dazzling lineup of items. Basically, they sold anything and everything, and the variety they carried were much more than those large stores in Sky Cloud City. This was probably due to the fact that Celestial Light Sect disciples often went to the small town to do transactions. Most of them had outstanding innate talents and were talented practitioners, so their consumption abilities were much higher than Sky Cloud City's ordinary practitioners. Moreover, when they obtained some treasures through experience training, they also needed to sell it off in the small town's marketplace. Huang Yueli toured around for a while and indeed found quite a few rare materials as she excitedly ran over, thinking of purchasing it. In the end, when she was taking out her spirit stones, the other party frowned and looked at her in puzzlement. "This young lady, don't you know the regulations of transacting in White Cloud Town's marketplace?" Huang Yueli went into a blank. "What kind of regulation?" The young man at the stall said, "At our place, we have much rarer and valuable treasures, so the pricing is usually much higher. All these require celestial light sex star stones to transact, so ordinary spirit stones will not do." "Star stones," Huang Yueli repeated in puzzlement. The young man looked at her with even more defense. "I say, what's the matter with you? From your dressing, you look like celestial light sex outer disciples, so how could you not know what star stones are? Those are the in-house transaction currency for celestial light sect. It's priceless. Most of the people who come to do transactions, a major part of them are celestial light sect disciples. Especially for those who sell valuable items, they definitely urgently require star stones." You can also listen on. Huang Yueli suddenly realized that. So it's like that. She then recalled that right before she left, Li Moying stuffed a huge sack of light purple-colored crystals, and she didn't even know what it was for. So it's for her to buy things. She had not expected her fiancé to be so meticulous. It was really considerate. The young man saw her dazed look and thought she had no star stones, so instantly became impatient. "All right, since you don't have any star stones, then please step aside and not disturb me from doing business. I have no way as well, because I need a huge sum of star stones to exchange for cultivation method. But in order to gain star stones, one needs to make contributions for the sect to obtain the rewards, so I can only come to this place to sell my stuff to exchange for it. Otherwise, for such a valuable 7th-tier material, I will definitely not sell it off." "Hey, wait, I have star stones. I want to buy your materials. This one, and that. Pack it all up. How much does it cost?" Huang Yueli called out urgently. These 6th-tier materials were very rare, and sometimes she might not even be able to auction for it successfully in the auction house. Now that she chanced upon them, she definitely must get them. After getting these, she would be able to refine an entire set of 6th-tier profound armor for Li Moying. When a young man heard her cry, he looked at her suspiciously. "Are you certain you can afford these? My materials here are not cheap. From your dressing, you're just an outer disciple, right? Where would outer disciples get so many star stones?" Huang Yueli smiled. "You haven't even told me your price. How do you know that I can't afford it?" The young man hesitated and said, "All right, since you already say that, these materials are a total of 25 star stones." 25? Huang Yueli gave a shocked expression. Earlier, when that young man put on that serious look, she had thought how expensive these things were. In the end, it was worth only 20 gift star stones. These star stones were really valuable. If it was according to market price, these materials would cost at least 150,000 medium-grade spirit stones, and if that all added together, one star stone would be around 10,000 medium-grade spirit stones. Recalling that Li Moying gave her a whole sack of star stones, it seemed that there would at least be a few thousand pieces. It was more than enough to buy everything in this marketplace. Huang Yueli was feeling a little complicated, as this was the first time she took so much money from a man. As a highly valued armament master, she had always not been lacking in spirit stones. Whatever she wanted to buy, she would just buy, and there was no need for anyone to give her any money. In the past, Mu Qingying would only give her presents and not spirit stones, because no matter how much money he could never match what Huang Yueli herself had. But today this man finally found a chance to support her. She had to admit, the feeling wasn't bad at all. A smile surfaced on Huang Yueli's lips. The young man thought she felt that it was too expensive as he hurriedly explained, "The price of 25 star stones indeed isn't cheap, but these 6th-tier ores are something which my senior brother and I managed to get from attacking a large group of 6th-grade magical beasts. It's not even sold in Sky Cloud City. As this is a priceless item, I will absolutely not drop my price. If you want them, then take it. If you don't, please leave. Huang Yue just wanted to speak out when a voice came echoing from her side. These few oars, I want it all. Huang Yue couldn't help but frowned as she turned back to take a look. You can also listen on. Standing behind her was a man dressed in the inner disciple's uniform. He had an arrogant and high-spirited expression as he swept a disdainful look at Huang Yue while stretching out his hand. He was about to retrieve the oar from the stall. Wait a minute, these few oars are something which I asked for first. Surely there's a first-come, first-serve rule, right? Huang Yue frowned as she spoke out. But the young man at the store's expression changed suddenly as he spoke out in fear and trepidation. Oh, your elder Wang's senior brother Feng. I not expected to see you at the marketplace. The disciple, surnamed Feng, gave an arrogant smile as he said to the young man, These oars are 25 star stones, right? Since we're all from the same faction, then give me a discount and round down the remainder, counting it as 20 star stones. The young man's expression changed. Senior brother Feng, please don't do this. Junior brother's business is very small, and these oars are really not easy to come by. I need this money urgently. The young man really wanted to cry, but had no tears. This senior brother Feng Likuan was Elder Wang's eldest disciple, and in Celestial Light Sect, he was considered as one of the talents. Other than Sect Master's few disciples, the next person with the strongest innate talent was him. But he was known for his pettiness and arrogance, so no one wanted to do business with him. Yet they weren't able to offend him. Like now, for items which were worth a total of 25 star stones, removing the remainder from it would be equivalent to taking away 1/5 of the amount, which was a huge amount. But Feng Likuan's ability was indeed strong. The young man was merely an inner disciple, and no matter if it was his status in the sect or his own personal innate talent and ability, he was far away as compared to the former. If Feng Likuan insisted on forcing to buy or sell, the young man had no way to reject him at all. As expected, seeing the young man still try to debate, Feng Likuan's face immediately revealed a cold smile as he said impolitely, Aren't you the junior brother surnamed Liu? I'm giving you face as your senior brother to give you these 20 star stones. Since you don't want to take the easy way, then we'll do it the hard way. I'm giving you face by wanting your oars. Even if I don't pay, what can you do? Saying that, his hand moved towards the oars once again. The young man was so anxious that he was about to cry, but he didn't dare to stop him. Just as Feng Likuan was about to touch those oars, a slender, delicate hand stretched out and stopped on the oars. At the same time, a burst of profound energy shot towards Feng Likuan's outstretched arm, coincidentally flicking him away. Feng Likuan had not expected anyone to stop him as his expression sunk, and he stared fiercely at Huang Yue, who was standing by the side. That malicious look on his eyes were filled with threat. Huang Yue seemed as though she had not noticed anything as her expression was calm as she spoke indifferently. This senior brother, I've already reached an agreement on the price with this stall owner and agreed to purchase these oars. So even if you give a price now, it's useless, so next time please come over to the marketplace earlier. Saying that, she retrieved a bunch of star stones from the Sky Phoenix ring and counted out 25 pieces, then passing it to the young man. The young man looked at her in surprise, as he didn't expect her to be so straightforward in payment. Moreover, the number of star stones which she had in her hands apparently showed that she was a rich buyer. But no matter how rich she was merely an outer disciple. Was her mind clear at all? How dare she fight over things with Feng Likuan? The young man looked at the star stones in her hands, as his interest was aroused, but he didn't dare to accept it. Feng Likuan turned red in the face as he howled angrily on the spot. Who do you think you are? These are the oars I wanted, did you hear me? How dare you snatch it from me? Do you know who I am? You can also listen on. Who you are? What does it have to do with me? I only know that this is the thing which I've saw first, and the person who is paying a higher price is me, so these oars should rightfully belong to me. Saying that, Huang Yueli ignored Feng Li Kun and placing the star stones right on the ground in front of the young man. She bent over to pick up the oars. You dare to take my oars? Feng Li Kun howled in disbelief as he tried to stop her. But Huang Yueli's speed was much faster than his. With a gentle wave of her right hand, before Feng Li Kun was even able to see her movements clearly, the oars on the ground had all disappeared as Huang Yueli kept it into her storage space. This simply was out of his expectations. Feng Li Jun had initially thought that such an outer disciple, no matter how stubborn she was, there was no way she could take the oars away from him, because the disparity between their abilities were right there, and it wasn't something which just a mere few words could step across. However, this young lady before him had directly taken away the oars right before his eyes. How was this possible? Feng Li Kun was dumbstruck as he totally had not considered the fact that his ability was lower than Huang Yueli's. He assumed that his mind was wandering earlier, which was why Huang Yueli was able to take such actionable opportunities. When he thought of the fact that under so many watching eyes, he had actually lost to an outer disciple, Feng Li Kun immediately felt embarrassed as he was put in a difficult position. The more he thought, the angrier he got, and he finally couldn't endure it any further and struck out towards Huang Yueli. Wretched lass, you're looking for death. If I don't teach you a lesson, then you'd not know my power? Since you dare to snatch my oars, then I'll let you suffer a fate worse than death. I'm going to see how long you can last till. Feng Li Kun's raging palm strike was truculent as a powerful, profound energy charged towards Huang Yueli's direction. The surrounding crowd gave out bursts of shocking gasps. The young man who set up the stall was pale from fright, and he almost fainted. This was really a sudden and unexpected disaster. Originally, meeting such a rich person like Huang Yueli was an easy person to transact the deal with. Whoever knew the minute Feng Li Kun appeared, not only did he cause his business to fall through, furthermore this matter would be even more difficult to handle. Based on Feng Li Kun's arrogance and maliciousness, he might really seriously injure Huang Yueli. When Celestial Light sect disciples fight outside, resulting in fellow disciples seriously injured, it would result in the sect's punishment. But Feng Li Kun was the direct disciple and favorite disciple of Elder Wang, so he naturally won't be implicated. Then it would be him, the stall owner, who would be forced to take the blame. Of course, the person who was worse off was this little beauty who was here to buy the oars. How could she be so brainless to actually offend Feng Li Kun? If Feng Li Kun wanted the oars, just give it to him. What's there to argue over? This time, if her meridians were to be shattered, it might even affect her future cultivation. On seeing the palm strike reaching Huang Yueli, Feng Li Kun's face revealed a complacent cold smile. But just at this moment, not only did Huang Yueli not retreat, she even took a step forward. Feng Li Kun was shocked, as he thought she had gone silly with shock. But next second, Huang Yueli's silhouette suddenly moved and appeared right in front of him. Following that, her right hand rose up and a burst of fiery red blaze ignited from her palm. How are you so fast? Feng Li Kun's question had not left his mouth when he felt his entire body losing balance as he flew out. You can also listen on. A loud bang sound reverberated as Feng Li Kun's body crashed heavily onto the ground as he fell in between the two stalls by the side. These two stall owners had long been frightened by the fighting and had hidden themselves by the side. Hearing the sound of Feng Li Kun falling flat on his face, the surrounding crowd all shivered. All of them shot an unfathomable look towards Huang Yueli. Feng Li Kun was always riding roughshod over people in the marketplace, taking people's items and not paying for it. It wasn't just for 1 or 2 days already, so no one could do anything to him at all. As he was a direct disciple in Celestial Light sect, he was considered as a first-rated top expert, and the only people whose abilities were much stronger than his were sect master Murong's disciples. But people like Li Moying and Murong Fei would not possibly come personally to the marketplace to buy things. In this way, Feng Li Kun couldn't find any opponent, and every time someone dared to oppose him, he would deal a heavy blow to that person. So after continuously hurting several inner disciples, no one dared to jump out to oppose him anymore. Although the people who set up stalls here were more or less being exploited by him before, but all of them could only suffer to silence since their abilities weren't comparable to his. In soaring heaven's continents, those without actual abilities had no human rights. But now, this powerful and abled Feng Likuan had actually been defeated by a young lady and sustained such heavy injuries. Moreover, from her uniform, she seemed only to be an outer disciple. The disparity of potential and innate talent between outer disciples and direct disciples was a world of difference. How could Feng Likuan be defeated by an outer disciple? Just as the crowd were shocked beyond words to speak, Huang Yue snapped her finger, and immediately, a black silhouette appeared out of nowhere by her side. "Third Miss, what are your commands?" Mo bowed at her respectfully. Huang Yuli pointed at Feng Likuan, who was laid on the ground like a heap of mud. "Brother Mo, earlier that fellow surnamed Feng took the initiative to attack me. So, is this a violation of the sect's regulations?" Mo nodded. "Third Miss, what you said is right." Huang Yuli then replied satisfactorily. "That's right then. I heard that he's some Elder Wang's disciple. Help me throw him back to his master and ask Elder Wang on my behalf that him allowing his disciples under his faction to bully fellow disciples in the same sect, what punishment should he get? If we followed according to sect regulations, how should he be dealt with?" Her voice was extremely crisp and melodious, but when she said these words, it was filled with an imposing force. Mo bowed. "This subordinate obeys your command." Just as the crowd were completely awed into silence, Mo walked towards Feng Likuan. Feng Likuan had regained consciousness and had just heard the later part of Huang Yuli's words as he was so infuriated that he wanted to jump right up, but in the midst of doing so, as his rib bones were fractured, he moaned and fell heavily back onto the ground. Even so, he couldn't help but cried out arrogantly, "You wretched lass, who do you think you are? Towards my master, you dare to." He had just spoken halfway when he saw Mo standing in front of him, as his voice came to an abrupt stop. His eyes widened real big as he stared intently on Mo and spoke with a shaking voice. "Mo, Protector Mo, why are you here?" Those ordinary disciples might not recognize that Guru Mo, but how could he Feng Likuan not recognize him? As Li Moying's most trusted shadow guard, when direct disciples met him, they needed to treat him with respect, because many times when Mo appeared, they represented Li Moying. You can also listen on. Feng Likuan had not expected that his farce today had actually alarmed young sect master's people. Mo spoke coldly. "Junior brother Feng, you should have never, ever offended Third Miss today. You almost hurt Third Miss, so this matter isn't going to end so easily. You better go back with me and discuss with Elder Wang carefully on how you're going to explain to young sect master." Feng Likuan went into a blank. What Third Miss? Why must I explain to Young? Suddenly, he recalled that rumor which was spreading around the entire Celestial Light sect. Young sect master had gone to Celestial Light Academy to bring back his prenatal betrothal fiancée. Moreover, young sect master had pampered this fiancée of his, abiding to all her requests, completely abandoning eldest young miss from his mind, and even publicly declaring that he would marry this young lady. This matter, Feng Likuan had naturally heard of it, but it had never crossed his mind that the unfamiliar outer female disciple which he met in the marketplace was the young lady in the rumors who had smitten young sect mater. If she really was young sect master's fiancée, why did she needed to wear outer disciple's uniform? Why didn't young sect master find her a good master, to let her become a direct disciple and cultivate properly? Feng Likuan would never have known that it was Huang Yuli who despised Celestial Light sect's elders, believing that none of them had the qualifications to teach her. Anyway, all she asked for was to stay by Li Moying's side. Regarding matters on cultivation, she herself had plenty of experience, so why would she needed to become a direct disciple for? But even if Feng Likuan could not comprehend the entire situation, but on seeing Mo Yi's icy cold face, he knew that what he had said was not false. That was it. Now that he had offended young sect master, even Elder Wong would not be able to save him. Feng Likuan was so scared that his eyes rolled back, and he fainted once again. He turned around and bowed towards Huang Yule once again before he dragged Feng Likuan away. Huang Yuli looked around for a little while more and felt that there wasn't anything which she wanted to purchase from the nearby stalls, so she turned around and proceeded to leave. Once they knew she had left, the marketplace exploded into a huge bustle. Everyone was filled with astonishment, excitement, as well as mind-blowing emotions. Heavens, so that's the legendary young sect master's fiancée? She indeed is very pretty. Earlier, I was just wondering if this outer disciple had just joined us. She's so beautiful, and yet no one mentioned about it. Look at your wretched look. No matter how beautiful she is, you will never be your turn. You dare to fight with young sect master over her? Even if you give me 100 more guts, I also won't dare to. I am purely admiring her, can it? She's really worthy of being young sect master's fiancée. Did you guys see it earlier? The speed of her move is simply too fast. Feng Likuan had no chance to react at all and was sent flying by just one strike from her. This ability should have long surpassed Feng Likuan. That's right, Feng Likuan still thought it was his own carelessness. TSK, really a dumba asterisk guess. But that third miss looks very young, maybe around 15 or so. She could actually defeat Feng Likuan? What kind of innate talent is that? As compared to young sect master, she's not inferior in any way, right? Someone suddenly thought of this as he weakly raised this question. Momentarily, everyone was shocked as they exchanged glances, but no one said a single word. Right, earlier everyone was just intent on watching the show and had not thought about this carefully. That young lady at this age had such this level of cultivation. Considering this carefully, just what kind of exceptional innate talent was that? You can also listen on. It took a while before someone regained their senses. All they had were a gasp of admiration among the thousands of words. She really is worthy of being young sect master's fiancée. No wonder young sect master don't even have any interest in eldest young Miss Morrow. So, there's really a young lady with such shocking innate talent. Only someone like her is comparable to young sect master. When Huang Yuli left the marketplace, she felt slightly tired, and when she saw a tea house by the roadside, she wanted to go over to have some tea and take a rest. But the minute she just planted her butt, she heard an agitated voice from her rear right corner. Byruoli? You're Byruoli? You're still alive? Huang Yuli turned around and took a look and saw a good-looking man dressed in a long white robe standing up as he shot straight to her. Huang Yuli stared at him and asked in astonishment, "Divine Dr. Liu? Why are you here?" That person was Liu Bian. When he saw Huang Yuli seated right in front of him in one piece, he was simply pleasant beyond his expectations as he couldn't help but said, "That's great. You're all right. When I heard about your disappearance, I almost got scared out of my life." Huang Yuli grew even more curious as she blinked and asked, "How do you know about my disappearance?" She and Liu Bian weren't that close, right? They merely had a doctor and patient relationship, so why would Liu Bian get too agitated from seeing her? Liu Bian agitatedly trembled, as he couldn't help but held Huang Yuli's hands and said, "Haven't you made a prior arrangement with me that within 10 days you'd bring your friend to me for a consultation? Because of that, I'd stayed in Sky Cloud City for 10 days, but you'd not come to look for me. I had something on, so I thought of visiting you. Have you forgotten about it?" In the end, the students in Celestial Light Academy said that you disappeared. Huang Yuli was caught unawares as her hand was grabbed in his, and she immediately felt embarrassed. She had always felt that Liu Bian's attitude towards her was not right, but she wasn't quite able to tell what was wrong about it. Only, the two of them were of different sexes, so when he suddenly grabbed her hand, this felt a little presumptuous, right? Huang Yuli gently retracted her hand, and after Liu Bian detected that, his gaze turned slightly dark, but he still released her, not forgetting to explain, "Ah, I'm so sorry. I thought something happened to you, so when I saw you, I was a little too agitated." Huang Yueli hurriedly replied, "No matter, I understand. Thank you for being so concerned about me. That day, I had indeed met with a little bit of danger and encountered my father's enemy. Later on, because of my carelessness, I almost lost my life. But luckily later on, I managed to escape out of the dangerous situation." She tried to go through the entire episode briefly, but not only did it not make Liu Bian rest assured, on the contrary, it made him even more worried. What on earth is going on? Your father's enemy? Who is your father to have offended such a powerful enemy? Furthermore, where were you hiding after sustaining such heavy injuries? Why was it that I've been searching for you for 2 months, and yet I couldn't find any clues at all? When Huang Yule heard that, she went blank. You searched for me for 2 months? Why? Did you need my help for something? She was completely phased as she totally could not understood why Liu Bian would search for her, and for such a long time. By right, their relationship wasn't so close till he would do that, right? Furthermore, Liu Bian wasn't some kind-hearted person who would waste his compassion on someone like that. Although he looked more passionate than Mu Chengying on the outside, he was actually the one whose natural disposition was cold. You can also listen on. Usually, if it wasn't someone who Liu Bian wanted to save, then even if that person died right in front of him, he wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Moreover, Liu Bian would not even care about those ladies whom he had a past relationship with. In the past, his enemies used the women whom had a relationship with him to threaten him, but he wasn't hooked and allowed those women to emerge and perish. A person with such cold character would run about everywhere for an ordinary patient, even searching for her for 2 entire months? How is that possible? It wasn't like in her past life that he would help his best buddy Mu Chengying to search for his beloved woman. So, either Liu Bian was lying to her, or he had some ulterior motive. Liu Bian remained silent for a moment, not knowing how to reply. After some time, he came out with an excuse. There's nothing much. I recently came across a patient who was similar to your medical history, also poisoned by dark attribute. But when I used the same kind of medicinal bath on him, I was not able to cure him at all. I was thinking that my divine doctor's label cannot be smashed just like that. So I thought of searching for you to understand what the situation was when I was treating you that time. Actually, Liu Bian himself didn't know what was wrong with him. He originally wasn't a kind-hearted person. There were innumerable patients who helmed great fortunes to look for him to cure them. So he couldn't possibly stay put at one place, just to fulfill an agreed period of 10 days for a young lady. If he agreed to wait just upon request, what kind of divine doctor was he? How much face would he have lost? However, he also didn't know why and actually stayed for an entire 10 days in Sky Cloud City. In the end, Huang Yueli didn't appear at all. This young lass had fooled him, and according to his way of doing things, he would immediately flick his sleeves and left. Before he left, he would also serve that woman who dared to fool him with some kind of poison, letting her see just how powerful he was. However, he had no thoughts of seeking revenge or similar matters at that time. He was filled with an ominous premonition, worried that that pleasant and artfully intelligent young lady, whose cultivation was not high, had really met with some unpleasant event. So he disregarded his own status to ask about her whereabouts in Celestial Light Academy. After he found out that Huang Yueli had disappeared, Liu Bian felt that his heart was going to stop, as his mind turned blank as flustered emotions started to occupy his entire mind and heart. This feeling was something which he had experienced previously. It was exactly because he had experienced it before, which was why he was even more clear what that meant. The last time something had him flustered like that was 14 years ago when he found out that Huang Yueli had self-exploded in the northern ice fields. That moment, heaven and earth were flipped as tsunami and avalanches occurred. At this present moment, his feelings were feeling the alike. Liu Bian immediately realized that he seemed as though he should had some kind of unusual feelings towards that young lass. It's been 14 years. Liu Bian had thought that his heart had died along with that fiery red figure in his memories, but he had not expected that he would feel the feelings of being aroused again. Moreover, this time, he seemed as though he was going to face the danger of losing someone who he felt something for. Once again, he immediately took action and gathered all his subordinates, using whatever resources he could get hold on, and started tracing Huang Yueli's whereabouts. But all these were something which he couldn't say in front of Huang Yueli. If it wasn't for his awkward character, he wouldn't have waited until the moment when Huang Yueli and Mu Chengying got together 14 years ago, before realizing that he had missed the best chance to confess. You can also listen on. After hesitating for so long, Liu Bian finally gave an undiluted version of a lie, creating a patient who did not exist to fob Huang Yueli off. So that's the case. Huang Yueli suddenly was enlightened. She was just thinking that Liu Bian couldn't be that kind-hearted. See, he indeed had some motive. What Liu Bian valued most was his medical reputation, and if there's a patient which he couldn't cure, then his divine doctor's reputation would be smashed. This kind of matter to him, naturally, was the most serious kind, so no wonder he could spend up to 2 months trying to search for her. But once the motive was out, she suddenly felt assured. After all, this small matter was something which she definitely could help with. What Huang Yueli feared the most was someone not telling what motive they had, and if she were to owe a personal debt to the other party, then that wouldn't be nice at all. With this thinking in mind, Huang Yueli immediately patted her chest and promised, "This matter I'll do my best to coordinate with you. Divine Dr. Liu, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. My memory has already been not bad, so I still remember clearly what happened during that time." She had no other thoughts on her mind and had never considered the possibility that Liu Bian might like her. After all, ever since Liu Bian made her wear a dress and played the zither, she could clearly tell that Liu Bian already had someone in his mind. Furthermore, he had deep sentiments for her. So under this kind of circumstance, she didn't felt that Liu Bian would suddenly had a change of affection. Liu Bian heard her saying that, and silently heaved a sigh of relief as he let out a sliver of smile. "That's great. I'll first explain the situation to you. If any situations occur during treatment, I'll still come over to look for you." Huang Yueli had not expected him to say that he would still come look for her, as she felt rather astonished momentarily. But having a change in thoughts, she felt that Liu Bian might be acting polite. After all, there were very rare cases where Divine Doctor Liu wasn't able to cure any illness, and this time round he had intentionally came to ask her about her situation. If he still didn't manage to cure that patient, wouldn't it be too ridiculous? So, he definitely must be just saying so only, and would not look for her in future. But even if Liu Bian don't look for her, she had something to look for him. Huang Yueli laughed as she replied, "Of course, that's great. It's my ultimate honor to be acquainted with Divine Dr. Liu." When Liu Bian heard these words, he silently heaved a sigh of relief as the huge stone weighing on his heart was finally let down. Heaven knows that his appearance looked extremely calm and different while maintaining a suave vagrant's demeanor, but in actual fact his heart was apprehensive to the max. Liu Bian decided immediately that he must grab this opportunity to let the young lady before him know that he was an abled and reliable man. But Liu Bian had his own pride. He didn't immediately agree to it diligently, but maintained his usual kind of indifference on the surface. He raised his teacup and took a sip before he said, "How do you want me to help exactly? Let me hear about it first." Huang Yueli replied, "It's the matter which we agreed upon previously, to do consultation for a friend of mine. He has had that illness for 10 over years, and recently it's been deteriorating. The last time, because I met with danger hints, we missed the agreed timing to meet up. After dragging for so long, I'm afraid that it would become more and more dangerous. So I'd like to trouble you to set aside some time to do consultation for him." When Liu Bian heard about this matter, he couldn't help but laugh as he said, "You should know that the price to ask me to do consultation is very high. Last time you've made me a meal, which made me satisfied, so I agreed to your request. But at that time, you didn't appear during our agreed timing, so it's considered as you giving up that chance. Now that we're speaking on the same matter again, I will not acknowledge this debt. Huang Yueli pursed her lips as she berated Liu Bian, the wily old fox, secretly, thinking that he would probably come out with something else to make things difficult for her. She was considered quite close to Liu Bian, and in her past life, they were all friends, so she naturally knew that every single time this fellow helped someone to do consultation, he would definitely not let it go easily if he didn't make the other party go crazy from it. But did she have a choice, since she needed him to do her this favor? To Huang Yueli, Li Moying's health was much more important than anything else. So for that, she was willing to pay any price. Moreover, just merely lowering her stance to beg him, Huang Yueli immediately spoke in a humble manner as she said, "Divine Dr. Liu, last time you'd already agreed to it. Moreover, I didn't intentionally not meet up. I really almost lost my life. Furthermore, aren't you asking me for help this time as well? Don't tell me you're only intending to make me help you for free and not intending to pay me any reward? How about this? We do one favor for each other, and that's considered settled." She used the carrot and stick approach as she tried to befuddle Liu Bian. Liu Bian heard her clever and eloquent look and felt a little like laughing. The way she spoke really resembled that young lady from 14 years ago. Thinking of the person in the past, Liu Bian sighed silent in his heart, and at the same time he reminded himself that since he had already missed it once, he absolutely cannot miss it the second time. This time round, he must grab the opportunity. Liu Bian heard that and said, "There's no logic in your saying. Your answering to a few questions of mine was as easy as lifting a finger, but if I have to do consultation for your friend, that would waste a lot of my effort. So how could it be the same? You just want to use a few questions to exchange for Liu Bian's help?" How would such an intelligent person like Huang Yueli not understood what he meant by that, as she immediately realized that Liu Bian was prepared to agree to it, but she was still acting that he didn't agree to it. She hurriedly added, "This is easy. What else do you want me to help you with? Just list it out, and I do my best to satisfy your demands." Liu Bian laughed and intentionally shot a disdainful look at her. "Can you satisfy all my demands? I don't believe that based on your ability, I really can't tell that what help you can help me with." Huang Yueli rolled her eyes at him in displeasure. "What do you mean by that? Don't you dare belittle me. I'm telling you, I'm very rich. You can also listen on. Moreover, not only do I have spirit stones, I also have many rare materials and profound armaments. You only need to list out your demands, and I'll think of a way to do it." Even if she wasn't able to do it, there was still Li Moying, so she could still go back home and discuss with her fiancé on how to go about it. Huang Yueli was very sincere when she raised this, but Liu Bian didn't believe her. From how he saw it, no matter what Huang Yueli said, she was merely a 14 to 15-year-old young lass. Even if she had outstanding innate talent, but cultivation itself required a lot of expenditure on resources, so how much money could she have saved? Retreating back 10,000 steps, even if she really did have savings, was it comparable to him, Liu Bian? One must know that the two occupations in the entire soaring heavens continent which earned the most were armament masters and alchemists. Ever since Huang Yueli died 14 years ago, the position of a 9-ranked armament master was still vacant till now, whereas for 9-ranked alchemist, it was Liu Bian himself. In other words, he was the richest man in the entire soaring heavens continent. So no matter what this young lass had, surely she would not be able to show him anything that he had interest in, right? Furthermore, if he were to woo her now, who on earth would woo the lady and still demanded things from her? Liu Bian thought for a moment and replied, "Money, I have plenty of it. For that little bit of yours, I am not interested." Huang Yueli's lips twitched as she wanted to debate further, but endured it. All right, pill masters were indeed rich, and for Liu Bian to be so arrogant, he had his own reasoning. Who asked him to be the one that she had to beg for help? She would endure with it. "But if you can copy what you did like last time to make another meal for me, then I can give you another chance to help your friend do consultation. What do you think?" Liu Bian raised his request slowly. Huang Yueli delightfully nodded when she heard that. "All right, This is simple. Don't say one meal. Even if it's 10 meals, it's not a problem too. As long as you're able to cure him, then you'll be our best friend. So, we welcome you to our house to be our guest. She had not expected that things were actually that simple. Liu Baiyan's request was actually for her to make him another meal. Huang Yueli felt that it was inconceivable. She knew that her culinary skills weren't bad, but was it really that good to this extent? To even be able to let the difficult divine Dr. Liu to do a consultation for her, just for one meal? Wasn't this just too magical? She herself didn't even felt that it was really good usually. For no matter what, Liu Baiyan had agreed to it, so was some great news. Huang Yueli didn't think much of it, and just treated that it was his special preference, as she immediately agreed to it joyously. But Liu Baiyan, on hearing her reply, not only did he not felt happy, instead he started to frown. Somehow he felt that Huang Yueli's words earlier sounded a little strange. What was called? Our house. What was called? Welcome you to our house to be our guest. Whose house was it? Liu Baiyan kept thinking about it and felt uncomfortable, so he couldn't help himself and asked, Miss Bai, why did you say our house? This friend of yours is staying with you? When Huang Yueli heard this question, she suddenly paused as a shade of red uncontrollably filled her face. She realized that she was too excited and actually put the words "our" into her mouth. Although it indeed was the truth, but she and Li Moying were not officially married and were staying together, the feeling was a little embarrassing. Liu Baiyan had not expected that over such a question, Huang Yueli actually blushed. You can also listen on. This made Liu Baiyan's alarms ring louder as he immediately asked for an answer. Why are you not talking? Is it inconvenient to speak about? Huang Yueli then shook her head as she said, There's nothing inconvenient to talk about. Actually, the person whom I wanted you to help do consultation for is my fiancé. Fiancé? Liu Baiyan cried out in alarm as his hand uncontrollably shook and the teacup in his hand instantly dropped, smashing onto the ground. Following the crisp plop sound, the teacup was smashed to smithereens, shattered into fragments, just like his broken heart. Liu Baiyan repeated in disbelief, You say fiancé? You have a fiancé? Liu Baiyan totally couldn't believe that such a thing had happened. Just when he was filled with determination to woo a young lady, he suddenly discovered that the only party who made his heart moved actually already had a fiancé. Why was he so unlucky to be just late by one step every single time? This couldn't be true. Huang Yueli had not expected him to be so agitated, and she totally didn't understand why she looked at him vacantly. That's right. Right before I was born, we already had this prenatal betrothal. Earlier this year, we officially got engaged to become fiancé and fiancée. Liu Baiyan replied, Your fiancé was in a prenatal betrothal with you? Huang Yueli looked at him in puzzlement once again, not understanding why he kept asking her about her personal matters, but she still nodded her head. Liu Baiyan then recovered from shock that this beautiful lady was a married woman, and on seeing Huang Yueli nod her head, his heart started to quieten down. Although this young lass was so young and had a fiancé, this was really out of one's expectations, which increased the variations and uncertainty during his process of wooing her. But at least the good news was, she and her fiancé were betrothed prenatally. That also meant that their marriage arrangement was totally out of the elder generation's arrangements, purely the type which was similar to drive the ducks onto the perch, so there probably weren't much feelings between the both of them. Towards this, Liu Baiyan was very sure of it, because Huang Yueli had mentioned this earlier, that her fiancé's body was very weak and had sustained 10 over years of illness. Moreover, from her tone, her fiancé's illness was getting more and more serious by the day, and if this continued, it would bode more ill meanings than positive signs. This kind of man, what abilities did he have? No matter how good his innate talent was, to have such a serious illness, his cultivation would probably not be any higher. Whereas how about this young lass? Her innate talent was exceeding, and her ability was outstanding, with both beauty and brains. For a young lady like her, how could she possibly be willing to marry a fiancé with that kind of illness? From this, one could tell that the young lass was probably doing it out of morality, feeling that she should take care of her seriously ill fiancé. So she chose to stay with him instead of rejecting the marriage. There were really not many young ladies who had both affection and faith, and this made Liu Baiyan's evaluation towards Huang Yueli raise another notch. Huang Yueli totally didn't know that in such a short span of time, Liu Baiyan's brain had been nourished with so many thoughts, and it was totally not fitting the truth. She only had one question in her mind. When are you free to help my fiancé do the consultation? We have a full set of culinary equipment in our kitchen, so just arrange a time, and when before you drop by, I can prepare the things in advance. I'll make a few more dishes for you to taste in our home, and after that, you can help him do the consultation. Huang Yueli looked at Liu Baiyan with ardent hope and expectation, feeling that her plan was extremely perfect. You can also listen on. But Liu Baiyan's heart was burning with jealousy. The girl he liked actually had a marriage arrangement. No matter what the reason was for her engagement, this still made him extremely dissatisfied. Even so, he still immediately agreed to it. All right, we shall do as you say then. He wanted to see for himself who this fiancé of this young lass's was, and what qualifications did he had to possess such a perfect goddess. What Liu Baiyan had on his mind was he had to utilize his fullest hard work to hurriedly cure this young lass's fiancé. In this way, this lass had no moral obligation towards him, nor would she be denounced as a fiancé who abandoned her severely sick fiancé. On the other hand, he had to personally negotiate with this lass's fiancé to make him realize that he and this young lass's difference, to let him know that he wasn't fit to be with this young lady, then making him feel ashamed of his inferiority, thereby automatically withdrawing the marriage. Liu Baiyan had indeed weaved beautiful thoughts on it. Furthermore, if he hadn't misunderstood the other person's words, this plan might possibly be executed beautifully. But Huang Yueli's next sentence once again grabbed him from heavens all the way into Hades. All right, then you need to grab hold of time quickly. Rather than choosing a date, let's make it tomorrow instead. Later I'll drop by the small town's market to get some ingredients. What do you want to eat? Just tell me. All right, I forgot to tell you, it's very simple for you to find me. You just need to go to Celestial Light Sect and find any disciple, tell them you're Divine Dr. Liu, and later tell them that you're looking for young sect Master Limoying will do. Limoying? You say your fiancé is Limoying? Liu Baiyan had not imagined hearing this name from Huang Yueli at all. Even though he had suffered several blows earlier and felt that he could take on anything else, but now he still felt deeply shocked and helpless. Had he heard wrongly? He must have heard wrongly, right? How could it be Limoying? How could it be him? Huang Yueli saw his deep setback look as she asked curiously, "What's the matter? You should know him, right? Limoying is my fiancé. I heard the people in his sect mention this before, that you've done a consultation for him previously and even refined pills for him. That soul detachment illness of his is very rare, so I think you shouldn't have forgotten about him, right?" Liu Baiyan clenched his teeth as he tried hard to control himself, to make his own tone sound as peaceful as possible. Right? Yes, I've done a consultation for him previously. Huang Yueli smiled. It's great that you remember it. This time I've looked for your help because his soul detachment illness is getting more and more serious, and I'm very worried about him. Of course, I know this illness is extremely hard to cure, so I won't just use one meal to dismiss you. No matter how many meals you want, as long as you can cure him, I definitely fulfill my promise. Cooking for you any time that you want. Saying that, she seemed to have recalled something as she continued. That's right. My Moying seems to repel you a little. Is it because the way you treat him is too rough, therefore leaving a trauma when he was very young? Will you please be gentler then? Otherwise be careful that I'd add spit into your food, okay? Huang Yueli finished whatever she was saying, and when she raised her head, she saw Liu Baiyan's head tightly creased with an exceptional unpleasant expression, as though he was experiencing some torture. His both hands, which were on the table, were clenched into fists, and his lips were tightly pursed into a straight line. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli asked in puzzlement. Divine Dr. Lu, what's the matter with you? She suddenly became apprehensive, not knowing why had Lu Baiyan turned so agitated the minute he heard Li Moying's name. She heard Li Moying mentioned this previously that he didn't like Lu Baiyan, but Huang Yueli assumed that it was because of Lu Baiyan's violent ways of treatment. She heard that Li Moying was only 7 or 8 years old when he was being treated by Lu Baiyan, so it was no wonder that he would be traumatized. But now, seeing Lu Baiyan's unpleasant complexion, did it mean that the both of them had a serious friction? Huang Yueli had not considered the fact that Lu Baiyan knew about Li Moying's past identity. Because Li Moying himself didn't know who he was, and no one beside him knew his identity. So how would Lu Baiyan possibly know? Moreover, Lu Baiyan and Mu Chungying had already turned from friends to does. From Lu Baiyan's stance previously, he couldn't wait to see Mu Chungying die. If he were to find out that Li Moying was Mu Chungying, would he still try to cure him? Apparently not possible. In actual fact, Huang Yueli's thinking was totally wrong this time. Lu Baiyan's understanding towards Li Moying had exceeded her imagination. Furthermore, he even knew more than what she knew. He clenched his teeth as various thoughts flew past his mind. But most of all was a kind of indescribable jealousy and hatred. That year, he was short of a step in confessing to Huang Yueli, and could only see her walk into Mu Chungying's embrace. He chose to give up, but Mu Chungying wasn't even able to protect that lady. After Huang Yueli died, Lu Baiyan had a huge fight with Mu Chungying, and Mu Chungying also made a bold decision to stake all in one throw, but he ultimately still failed. From then on, Huang Yueli's spirit completely disappeared, entering an eternity of non-reincarnation, whereas Mu Chungying adopted another form of living. Even though Mu Chungying failed, but this made Lu Baiyan's hatred towards him lessen by quite a lot, so he continued to treat the reincarnated Mu Chungying. But Lu Baiyan knew that he and this Li Moying would never be friends again. Luckily, Li Moying didn't have any past life's memories, so the both of them were just strangers in this world, which was the best ending. But Lu Baiyan had not imagined that Li Moying would have a fiancée, and he actually really got engaged. How did he do this? Where had he placed that person who died 14 years ago? Had he completely forgotten about it all? Even though he knew that Li Moying had no past life's memories, but Lu Baiyan couldn't accept that he actually got engaged with someone else. Furthermore, his engagement partner was coincidentally the girl who he liked. When Lu Baiyan thought of this, various complicated emotions started to surge as he couldn't control himself and stood up from his seat. Huang Yueli had a huge shock as she asked, Divine Dr. Lu, what's the matter with you? Had my fiancé offended you? Lu Baiyan trembled as he turned his eyes back on a Huang Yueli. The young lady before him bit her lips lightly as her brows were creased, looking extremely apprehensive. She was so innocent, not knowing anything at all, and not knowing that her fiancé was a cruel and unscrupulous fellow. He wasn't worthy of her. Lu Baiyan spoke out, Miss Bai, do you know that Li Moying, you can also listen on. Lu Baiyan's words were by the side of his mouth when he suddenly stopped. The young lady didn't know anything at all. She was doing it out of moral obligations, to take care of her severely ill fiancé only. How would he be so cruel to tell her the cruel truth? Furthermore, she probably wouldn't believe him, so why take the trouble? Huang Yueli frowned as she continued to ask, Divine Dr. Lu, what are you trying to say? Why are you suddenly acting so strangely? Lu Baiyan's thoughts flew by quickly. Miss Bai, I'm afraid that you'd be cheated by a scum and be hurt by him. Do you know that Li Moying is the famous handsome male in the South Sky region, and the number of women beside him are just too many? Not to mention that your sect master's daughter Morong Fei had always been by his side, no matter where he went. Other people only consider Morong Fei as his fiancée and don't know who you are. Together with a Casanova, you won't have any good ending. Lu Baiyan gathered all the recent gossip that he heard around Celestial Light Sect and gave a plausible reason which sounded like it was true. When Huang Yueli heard that, the creases on her forehead started to loosen as she laughed. Divine Dr. Lu, you're so concerned about me because you treat me like a friend? Liu Bian hurriedly explained, that's right. To be frank, I've met so many ladies, and only the food that you cook tastes the best. In order to be able to try your cooking anytime, I am willing to be your friend. Huang Yueli laughed as she said, it's my pleasure to be friends with divine Dr. Liu. But you are really thinking too much. My relationship with Li Moying is great. Regarding the matter between him and Murong Fei, that's just a story with no facts spread by others. Rumors with no basis will be stopped by intelligent people, so you need not mind too much over it. Liu Bian's heart was raging unceasingly as he really wanted to tell her that those rumors were really nothing. None of the rumors described just how much of a scumbag was Li Moying this fellow. However, he still endured it. All right, I understand your meaning now. You don't need to worry, I will go and help your friend to do consultation. But you might need to wait a little while more. Beside this, I suddenly recalled that I've already arranged a meeting with someone else to do consultation at another place tonight. Now that it's quite late, I have to be on my way. Furthermore, I won't be able to make it back on time tomorrow, so I won't be dropping by your side to have a meal. Liu Bian was distracted as his thoughts were in turmoil. He didn't want to continue staying in front of Huang Yueli, otherwise he would definitely give the game away. So he could only find a reason to quickly leave. Although Huang Yueli felt that his actions were abnormal, but she didn't ask too much and only replied, all right, then we shall arrange another time to meet. But please do put aside some time soon. I feel that Moying's condition is worsening by the minute and it cannot be dragged on any longer. Liu Bian heard that all she was worried about was Li Moying as he got even more frustrated. He half-heartedly nodded his head and waved casually, then, as though he was fleeing, he quickly left the small town. Huang Yueli saw his departing figure as she frowned. During nighttime, when Huang Yueli returned to Li Moying's courtyard, she continued to think back about what happened in the afternoon. Li Moying had gone out to another place to deal with some matters in the day, and in order not to be separated with his little fiancée, he hurried back through the night. He toiled for long hours and was travel-worn by the time he reached back. His hair was slightly dispersed, and a lock of his jet black hair had fallen to the front of his forehead. His face still bore the signs of frost, as his thin lips curled upwards with a smirk of lazy smile, giving off an exclusive man's charm. He walked towards Huang Yueli's back as he wrapped his hands around her slender waist. You can also listen on. It was until Li Moying's warm breath blew against her neck before Huang Yueli suddenly awoke from her thoughts. Ah, Moying, you're back. Li Moying's face revealed a slight displeasure. He didn't like the feeling of being disregarded by his fiancée, so he lowered his head and bit Huang Yueli's neck gently. Huang Yueli gave a shrill cry as she hurriedly used her hand to protect her neck. What are you trying to do? You're not a puppy, and you're biting me again. I told you this long before. You're not allowed to plant any love bites on my neck. I don't want to be laughed at by others anymore. Li Moying gave an indifferent reply as he gave a low laugh. Who dares to laugh at you? Tell me, and I'll help you beat them up. I think the others are not laughing at you, only jealous that we're showing off our love. You think everyone's as shameless as you? Go one side. Huang Yueli turned and looked at him angrily, trying to push him aside. However, Li Moying stuck onto her even more as he grumbled. You still dare to say me? Why don't you reflect on yourself? I'm already back for quite some time, and you totally didn't notice me. What are you thinking of? Still thinking about what happened in the small town this afternoon? Huang Yueli replied in surprise. You know about it? Li Moying gave a humph as he said, I've just stepped into the door when Elder Wang stopped me and threw me, his disciple whom he had bundled up saying that he had offended me unknowingly. So he's here to receive his punishment. After I've asked, then I realized that that fellow didn't grow any eyes and actually tried to attack you. Huang Yueli thought that Li Moying found out about her meeting with Liu Bian, so she had not expected that what Li Moying was talking about was the conflict she had with Feng Li Kun this afternoon about the oars. That matter, she no longer put in her mind. A small character like Feng Li Kun merely used his own identity as direct disciple, which enabled him to tyrannize everyone in Celestial Light Sect. Actually, he didn't have much ability, so right after Huang Yuli punched him, she totally casted him out of his mind. She wouldn't bother about such a small matter. What made her more worried was Li Moying's soul detachment illness. Li Moying replied, I asked Elder Wang to drive him out of his faction, and from now on, he's just an ordinary outer disciple. Other than that, Elder Wang heard that you liked ores, so he gave you a huge box of 6th-tier and above high-grade ores. I've already left it in your armament refining room, so take a look yourself tomorrow. Wow, I've struck it rich this time. Thank you. Huang Yueli gave him a peck on his face to express her gratitude. Li Moying satisfactorily accepted the beauty's kiss, but when he was thinking about hugging his fragrant fiancée to sleep, he discovered that she was still frowning as though there was something on her mind. Li Moying immediately frowned as he coughed softly. However, Huang Yueli was lost in her thoughts and totally didn't hear him at all. Li Moying coughed again, but still didn't get the reaction he expected, so he immediately became upset as he grabbed hold of Huang Yueli's arm and brought her into his embrace. What are you thinking about again? Huang Yueli replied, not thinking of anything. Li Moying became even unhappier as he lowered his head pressing against her, meeting his eyes to hers without blinking. Don't lie to me. You have something on your mind. Looks like you're not upset over that fellow surnamed Feng. So what's this about? Seeing Huang Yueli hesitate, he added, you're not allowed to lie to me. You said this yourself. From now on, we'll remain honest with each other, and there are no secrets between the two of us. Huang Yueli was stunned, recalling that this was really something that she had said. You can also listen on. She was afraid that Li Moying would cover up about his illness, but now this same sentence was thrown back by Li Moying to herself. She replied helplessly, Actually, there wasn't anything. Just, I'm an acquaintance while drinking tea alone this afternoon. Li Moying's instincts told him that something was wrong as he pursued for an answer. Acquaintance? Who? Huang Yueli hesitated for a moment. He's Liu Bian. The minute she said that, she instantly felt Li Moying's body turning stiff as the arm embracing her loosened slightly. Following that, Li Moying's voice was heard above her head, and this time round, it wasn't as gentle as before. Instead, there was a tinge of bitter cold to it. I never expected that this fellow actually found his way here. Didn't you say you don't have any relations with him? Why did you still talk to him? Huang Yueli knew that he definitely wouldn't be happy, but she had not expected that his jealousy was so obvious to the fact that she could even smell the sour smell from 800 miles away. She helplessly replied, Don't be like this. I indeed don't have any relation with him. We're merely acquainted, but he had, after all, saved my life. So when we meet, how can I not even say hello? So what if he saved you? Don't tell me when he helps other people do consultation, he doesn't accept consultation fees? Speaking of that, Li Moying suddenly recalled a question which he had neglected for a long time. He suddenly had a bad feeling. That's right, I haven't had the chance to ask you. Previously, why did Liu Bian treat you? He isn't those kind who could be bribed with a little spirit stones. What did he ask you to help him do? Huang Yueli totally didn't expect him to bring up this matter, as she was stunned. This about this. If she were to tell him that Liu Bian asked her to accompany him for 7 days, wouldn't Li Moying go mad from anger? What on earth did he make you do? The more Huang Yueli hesitated, the more suspicious Li Moying got as he insisted on finding the answer. Huang Yueli started sprouting cold sweat on her forehead as she felt embarrassed to the max. She obviously hadn't done anything, so why did she suddenly felt so guilty? Li Moying stretched out his hand to hold up her face as he forcefully raised her head to look at him. Her eyes were exchanging looks, and Huang Yueli was stared intently by that pitch-black eyes till her heart started pounding wildly, almost not being able to breathe. What is that attitude? Don't tell me you suspect that I have something going on with him? If you don't trust me, then just ignore me. Huang Yueli glowered at him as she pamperedly and arrogantly turned her head over. Although Li Moying looked aggressive and was unexcelled in the world, but in actual fact he was just a paper tiger in front of Huang Yueli. On seeing his little lass getting angry, his fire immediately extinguished. Don't. Lier, don't be angry. I don't mean it in that way. I only feel that Liu Bai and that fellow had something for you. I suspect he has ulterior motives towards you. Huang Yueli looked at him shockingly, as she almost laughed out in anger. What nonsense are you talking about? How could Liu Bai have any ulterior motives on me? Let me tell you then. The last time I was saved by him, he indeed wanted me to stay in his residence to accompany him for a few days. Hearing that, Li Moying's expression turned extremely gloomy as the arm holding on to her uncontrollably tightened its restraint. Huang Yueli was in pain by his action as she pushed his chest hard in an attempt to push him aside. You can also listen on. What tantrum are you throwing again? Let me go MMPH. Her objections were being blocked by an urgent kiss. Li Moying's kiss was very sudden, and Huang Yueli originally wanted to push him aside, but she hesitated for a moment, but later she put her arm around his neck and proactively deepened this kiss. Actually, she could also feel Li Moying's anxiety from his inner heart. This was probably because she had previously rejected him repeatedly, and it could also possibly be the shadows left behind in their past lives. So in conclusion, he had always been fearing that she would leave him. Although Huang Yueli sometimes was frustrated over the fact that her fiancé was a little too sticky, but after thinking through, she felt that Li Moying was so restless because of her, so she had always been accommodating to him to use actual actions to tell him that towards him, she would never leave or abandon him, always placing him in first place. As the young lady in his arms was extremely obedient, Li Moying's uneasiness in his heart was soon placated. His urging kisses slowly turned gentle, and the ambiguity slowly upgraded. Upon feeling Li Moying's palm moving up from her slender waist, Huang Yueli immediately pushed him. Li Moying's hand stopped as he loosened her in a fluster and even pushed her aside. He quickly walked to the tea set and poured a cup of tea as he downed it. Huang Yueli touched her lips, which were kissed till it turned red as she threw him a humorous smile while watching his action. Li Moying had always been insistent that he must recover his memories and officially marry her before they take their relationship to the next step. Huang Yueli knew that on one hand this was the respect he had towards her, and on the other hand, it was because he had not been able to marry her in their past lives, so this became an obsession in this man's heart. But as Li Moying liked to tangle himself around her, kissing her whenever he got the chance, so it also led to his utmost suffering. The tea on the table was brewed in the afternoon, and by now it was already icy cold. Li Moying drank the entire pot with great effort before he finally cooled down the fire within him. By the time he put down the teacup and turned round, he saw his little fox propping up her cheeks as she beamed at him in a relaxed and contented expression. Li Moying's eyes turned chilly as he gave a cold harumph. Huang Yueli saw that he was still behaving in a pampered and arrogant manner, so she walked over and proactively hugged his slender waist. What on earth are you angry about? You got suspicious of me for no reason. So the person who should be angry should be me, all right? Don't tell me you feel that I'm those kind of fickle-minded woman? Huang Yueli raised her head as she looked down towards him and pouted. Li Moying was most afraid of her being unhappy, so no matter how uncomfortable he was feeling inside, he barely managed to hiss out a sentence from the slits of his teeth. I'm not angry. This was called not angry. Huang Yueli couldn't help but burst out giggling, and afterwards, she wasn't surprised to see that Li Moying's face had turned even darker. She hurriedly replied, all right, will you listen to whatever I have to say first, all right? I am telling you, Li Bian has someone in his heart, and moreover, he has liked this person for a long time. I also don't know why they got separated, but Liu Bian often thinks of the person through an object, so obviously his feelings for her are very deep. Furthermore, although he asked me to accompany him for a few days, but he didn't do anything off the scale. He just made me play the zither for him, so I'm guessing the person he likes knows how to play the zither very well. She was afraid that Li Moying would misunderstand again, so she explained really quickly, and she just uttered everything at one go while blinking her big, watery eyes looking innocently at her own fiancé. You can also listen on that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.